You have to love this time of year in the NBA. We knew this was going to be a busy offseason around the league as teams try to grapple and navigate the confines of the new CBA and the new two-tier tax apron on the luxury tax, making some of these higher spending teams scramble a bit and figuring out how they're going to go about improving their roster with the limitations they have on using exceptions that would otherwise be there if they weren't in that second tax apron. And because of that, you saw the Golden State Warriors making a significant move in trading their young, who was thought to be their breakout player, that future franchise cornerstone, coming off that great season and winning the championship in 2022, their young player, who they just gave a big contract extension to, Jordan Poole, sending him to the Washington Wizards along with a future first-round pick in 2030 and a second-round pick in 2027 in exchange for Chris Paul. Yes, 38-year-old Chris Paul is going to the Warriors. A lot to unpack here, so let's discuss. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, and in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, I'll be honest, I'm still trying to process this trade, and I'm sure there are a lot of things I'm not quite seeing yet that will maybe become clear later on, but I'm trying to rack my brain around why the Warriors would possibly do this trade. I get it. Poole had a down year. He actually shot the team out of games in a lot of instances, including in the playoffs. The whole punch incident really seemed to impact his overall confidence, and it was pretty clear the Warriors were going to have to decide on Draymond Green or Jordan Poole. They weren't going to be able to coexist because it was clearly sitting and festering with Poole, even though they said it was behind them, but it's hard to just push that aside when your teammate effectively tried to knock you out in practice. The other thing, I know Poole's contract was a regrettable one. One of the first videos I actually made on this channel at the start of the season was how Jordan Poole and his contract was going to be one of the worst signings of this past offseason. How that contract was going to come back and bite them. How they didn't need to offer him that big of a deal because he had another year left on his current rookie scale deal, and they could have let him hit restricted free agency and still have the control to match any offer sheet he received, and they could have let the market dictate his overall value. And it would also have been a chance for the Warriors to say, hey, Poole, if you're really going to be that guy, you want this major contract extension, this is a prove-it year to show that last season was not an isolated incident. And sure enough, yeah, it's now looking like one of the worst contracts from that offseason. That being said, though, yeah, an unfavorable contract. He has a lot of flaws to his game, very inconsistent player, doesn't play defense, but only 24 years old, just turned 24 actually. He's still a great scorer, like even despite the Warriors having Steph and Clay who are going to take the bulk of shot attempts, Poole was still able to put up 20 points per game. He's not that efficient though, which is obviously a concern, but still a young player, technically hasn't entered his prime yet. You traded him along with 2 picks, a first and a second round pick, for a player who is literally 1 to 2 seasons away from retirement and also cannot stay healthy when it comes to playoff time. Like, I get it. You want to move off from Jordan Poole's contract, get that off the books. That gives you some breathing room when it comes to that second luxury tax apron. Makes sense. But trading him for Chris Paul, and you have to throw in draft compensation as well. And mind you, that first round pick is in 2030. Curry, Clay, and Draymond Green are all going to be gone by then. I'll be shocked if any of them are still playing in the league 7 years from now. The Warriors could very well be a lottery team at that time. That pick could be extremely valuable. Now, it's said that the pick is a protected first round pick, and we don't know the protections on that yet. Hopefully it's lottery protected, but if it's top 5 protected or lower, that could very well be a huge asset they just gave away for an old Chris Paul. Chris Paul, I've said before, one of the greatest point guards of all time, one of the smartest players you'll ever see, has had an incredible year despite never winning a ring, but he's 38. He's going to be 39 next season, and you traded a 24-year-old and draft picks for him. I have to be missing something here. Even after the trade officially broke, I kept saying, okay, another tweet is coming. Washington is going to be throwing in another player in the deal, maybe a sign and trade for Kuzma, something. No, the Warriors just wanted Chris Paul. Not like the Warriors don't have a point guard already, or small guards in general. I don't even know how this is going to work on their roster. Is CP3 coming off the bench, or is he starting while Steph is going to play the 2 and Clay the 3? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how one can defend this outside of the Warriors just looking to save money long term by getting Poole's contract off the books. But again, if that was the case, you couldn't find a better return for him. I know his trade value is low, but you'd have to think you can get more than a player who is on the steep decline and can't stay healthy. Maybe trade him for another bad contract to see if those guys maybe just need change of scene. Like Jordan Poole was expected to be, and we know this is a mistake now, but was expected to be the player of that next timeline for the Warriors post-Steph. The Warriors, they also need to start thinking about their future beyond their big 3. And yes, they still have Kuminga, Moses Moody. Wiggins is still relatively young, but now you're moving on from Jordan Poole and getting rid of additional picks. Keep in mind, they don't have their first round pick next year. They traded that to Memphis, which the Grizzlies just used in the Celtics deal for Kristaps Porzingis. How are they going to go about building their future as their current core, the older core that won championships, rides off into the sunset? Hats off to the Warriors. I mean, it's a risk to take on Poole's contract, but who knows? Dude might just need a change of scene. As of right now, he becomes the team's best player, a potential player they look to start laying the foundation for their rebuild, and they finally got a first-round pick out of the deal. Who would have thought that their first-round pick that they acquired in this deal would come from trading Chris Paul and not Bradley Beal or Porzingis? I mean, most people thought that Chris Paul was likely going to be a buyout candidate for that $30 million he's owed, and no, they somehow turned it into draft picks and Jordan Poole. Probably the best move they've made all offseason thus far in the rebuild. Anyway, I'm still trying to gather my thoughts on this. Those are my initial thoughts on the trade. No idea what the Warriors are thinking here. If there is something I'm missing, please let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.